for over 4 decades now. We are a modern day extension of ADYPU, offering future friendly educational programs for trailblazers, risk takers, dreamers, and doers of tomorrow. Founded with the goal of equipping the next generation of Indian students to seize the many possibilities at the crossroads of management, pure science, and technology, ADYPU Nuovos has been a driving force in this endeavor from its inception. We think India is on a threshold of unleashing massive growth in new industries such as health, finance, space technology, and education, as an increasing number of individuals seek answers via internet and Web3 technologies. Now, coming to the speaker for the webinar, let me introduce you to Mr. Avinash Kumar. Avinash basically heads the Nuovos vertical at ADYPU, Ajeenkya DY Patil University, Pune, India. He has been associated with the group for last 3 years and works very closely on domestic as well as international strategic partnerships. He received his MBA from the Indian Institute of Management, Bangalore, and his engineering degree from Birla Institute of Technology, Mesra. In his previous roles, he worked with leading real estate organizations with senior leadership teams. Outside of the work, he likes to explore places across the globe and tries new experiences. Over to you, Avinash.
Thank you, Ishan, for the introduction and allow me to welcome you all for this exciting webinar on financial technology. And as Ishan introduced me, I am currently leading this Nuovos vertical, and this vertical is mostly associated with the new technological innovation programs that the world is currently going through. So, uh, let me clarify this one thing. Most of you have their cameras and mics on mute, but feel free to raise your hand or type your queries in the chat box so that Ishan can coordinate the same with me, and I will try to answer that during our webinar. If not during the webinar, then feel free to write us to the email coordinates given at the end of the presentation. So, let me just introduce you these unicorns. Uh, if it were a physical session, I would have asked you to identify what is the common things between these companies. So one common thing that you can identify that these are unicorns of our country. Unicorns are basically those companies whose valuation have crossed $1 billion. And one more common thing among these companies are they all are in financial technology. So why I am giving you this example, you are all familiar with Cred, Paytm Slice. Cred is valued at more than $6 billion. Paytm is currently valued at more than $4 billion. Slice is around $2 billion. So why these financial technology companies? Actually, this is the agenda of our webinar. But if you see, more than 100 unicorns we have in our country, and out of these 100 unicorns, around 35 unicorns are in financial technologies. And how it concerns us as a academic institution or from your side as a student or aspiring student, that the median salary of fintech unicorn founders stood at rupees 1 crore during FY21. And let me clarify that this is only the salary part that they withdrew from the company. And if I go into their ESOPs, their other benefits and all these things, so they are, their net worth has more than 100 crores. So, you know, not the money that excites us, but the future, the growth part of these unicorns, these financial technology companies that excites us actually. I will go to fintech market size in a bit more detail. So in 2021, 2 years back, the asset under management was $50 billion, and it is projected to grow more than three times by 2025 in next 2 years to $150 billion, and by 2030 it will be 1 trillion. And I hope that most of you have heard about the our country's goal of becoming a 5 trillion economy by FY 26-27. So if you see the out of the 1 trillion economy, where the sector is contributing. So there is a huge contribution of financial technology in our country's economy as well as the wealth creation. Coming to the next part of how this sector is growing. So let me give you an example of how this fintech has penetrated our day-to-day lives. If I say that, you know, no transaction in today's world is possible without the use of financial technology, you will be, amazed. Let's say you want to buy food, you want to buy grocery, you want to buy clothes, you want to travel, you want to meet someone and give them a gift. All these transaction will involve money, and all these money transaction will involve using your mobile phones and doing some, making use of your bank accounts or credit cards or debit cards or UPI or scanner, whatever. So I will say if financial technology would not have evolved at this point, your mobile phone would have been just a basically a camera phone, because these financial technology enables your mobile phones to do the actual transaction, which gives you value in terms of all the things that we use today. And this is, I'm talking about the individual part, the retail part. When I go to the B2B side of it, so financial technology has penetrated in such a way that for every compliances, for every regulation, for insurance, everywhere the systems are evolving so that the financial technologies and their background is getting used. One more example I will give you, that RBI, Reserve Bank of India, last year they had to set up one department of financial technology. Usually we think that our banks, our central banks, they are mostly into banking, they are traditional one, but the world is changing at such a rapid rate. The technology is enhancing at such a fast rate that these institutions, they have to use financial technology, and they have to get involved in this. Otherwise, they will be left far behind. So, I think numbers speak more than anything. So, if we see fintech, how we are adopting the fintech in our day-to-day lives, that in India we have adoption of 87% of fintech services, and the globally it was, just at 64%. So if you see any developed country, any developing country, emerging economies, so all are going ahead with the fintech adoption in all their uh, central banks, banking institutions, as well as the startups. So when I talk about startups, in last 5 years have seen a plethora of startups coming up, and more than 2,400 startups came in fintech in India, were over 67%. And what concerns us, academics and the student side of it, that roughly 24 lakhs jobs are expected to be created by this year by virtue of the fintech sector. So see, not just they create direct employment, but indirect employment are getting created as well. One more example I will give you, let's say any retailer who is selling their groceries on roadside or, in their small shops. So fintech has enabled them that they can accept payment, not just by way of cash, but they can get their bank accounts linked to their UPI system and collect the payments. India's 100th unicorn, if you might have heard, the name was Open. Their contribution was that they enable small retailers to manage their cash flows by using financial technology. You will ask me how they could use that. We all see the UPI payments and all those things, QR code and scanners, but actually when they have to account their all these payments, their assets, their liabilities, so they included the analytics parts in that, and they improve the efficiencies of these retailers. So that way, not just individuals' lives and our payment system, but also the retailer, the B2B system is getting revolutionized by this growing fintech sector. So coming to the segments of fintech, what segments that we usually interact with? So there are the 7 segments that we broadly categorize them into. One is digital payments, another is alternative lending, another is insurtech, one is investment tech, robo advisor, bank tech, and reg tech. So usually most of us are concerned with digital payments that we used on our in our day-to-day lives. When we come to bank tech, so if you are working bank, or if you aspire to work in bank, so they are involving these technological solutions in their B2B transaction, and that help them managing risks. So as banks have different uh, creators and lenders, so they manage their risk by automating their payment system, their cash flows, and they assess their risk by inclusion of these financial technologies. If I talk about InsurTech, so I don't know if you have heard of these new insurance companies like Echo. So they are growing at a phenomenal rate, and they are one of the highest growing InsurTech fintech segment companies of our country. So you can initiate your transaction, claim your insurance policies, everything that you can do on your mobile phone. So that's where financial technology is revolutionizing every aspect of our lives. And concern, the major concern of people who talk about fintech, what are the career opportunities? So the first major career opportunity in fintech startup. So when I talk about Paytm, when I talk about Credit, so they are not startups as of now. They have grown beyond a limit. They are mammoth size. They are full working corporate organizations. Advisory firms, accelerator, educational institutes, and incumbent financial institutions. So these are some of the avenues for financial technology jobs. But the main concern that we have in our country, that the limited skill set of our engineering graduates, of our management graduates. So few data points that I have gathered. There are only 2.5% of engineers in India possess artificial intelligence skills, while only 5.5% are qualified with basic programming abilities. So there is a concern of how artificial intelligence is going to snatch everyone's job. So there was a quote from one of the industry leaders that artificial intelligence is not going to steal your job, but the person who knows how to use artificial intelligence is going to steal your job. So basically, it means that in whatever sector you work in, you must have an a basic understanding of how these new technologies, AI, ML, data science, are being used for the today's different products and services. So there was another survey that say that only 1.5% of engineers in India are being fit for new age jobs. So these are the new age jobs that we talk about in fintech, in health tech, and in space tech. 63% of companies in India report a shortage of talented employees, mainly in IT, engineering, services, and sales. So that's that's the usual old problem in our country that we face with, that company says that the graduates are not, excuse me, they are not skilled, they are not employable, and graduates said that there are not lot many companies hiring the freshers. But this gap can obviously be solved by this major pathway, that we say we skill them in these new age technology, in the progressing technology, so that there is that gap is mitigated, and there is a win-win situation for both the parties. So that's where we launched MBA program in fintech. So these are some of the aims that we want our graduates to understand first the finance, because financial technology builds on the basic finance, and after that about the practical knowledge that these institutions, these startups use in financial technologies. One of the aims is that you become proficient in the use of financial modeling, because financial modeling is the core of this program. This works not only in finance majors but also for fintech majors, because any financial services sector you choose, any fintech sector you choose, there has to be a use of financial modeling. That if you work in any organization, in after you graduate, you have to use these modeling to assess the profitability, the cash flow situations, and all those things that derive from them. So our program leader for MBA is Dr. Piotr Konwicki. He has a PhD in financial economics from Gdańsk University, Poland, and he has done his MBA from London Business School and diploma from Exeter College and Oxford University. In addition to academic career, he has an extensive investment banking experience from Lazard Freres and Deutsche Bank. So, any of you familiar with investment banking? industry. These two organizations are one of the top organizations that people want to work with because of the high paying nature of the job and the steep career path. So what basically we aim to teach in this MBA FinTech program, the first one is FinTech business model, data analytics and machine learning in finance, Python programming, cryptocurrencies, behavioral finance, security analysis, and private equity. So the if you see the upper half of these modules, so these are few of the modules that we have listed here. So this FinTech business model, because the sector is new, there is a new business model that these companies work on, and these models keep changing. So that's what we prepare you for to work in this fintech industry. Data analytics and machine learning in finance. So we are all familiar with data analytics and machine learning, but they have to be used in certain context. In finance, they have been getting used for last 5 years because these form the backbone of all these cryptocurrencies, new financial services company that keep coming. Python programming, I hope most of you are familiar with. Python is, again, one of the software platform that are being used to develop cryptocurrencies. Behavioral finance is one of the oldest subjects in finance, but it is getting importance nowadays because how we allocate our resources, assets, and manage the portfolio based on our behavior and past experiences. Security analysis is one of the modules that covers the bonds, equity, and other financial asset classes. Private equity, venture capital, and valuation of companies. These are some of the topics that one must be aware of if one is going to work in financial services company, because these private equity and venture capital, they actually enable the startups. They provide them the required funding to grow them, to scale them, and to employ lot many people than it would have been possible if they were a traditional finance company. Moving on to our possible career pathways for MBA FinTech, that two main areas that we identified. One is that the graduate can work as a financial analyst in researching and analyzing the needs of individual clients and firms with a view to assist in developing fintech products relevant for them. So basically, what we mean to say that financial analysts are not nowadays restricted to the who work on equity side of it, work on trading and asset allocation, but also in development of fintech, new fintech products. So cryptocurrency is one of the fintech products that the analysts have successfully worked in their previous stint. And second pathway is front office roles that most of the finance professional, finance graduate, they aspire to work on. This is actually most of the investment banking side, so that they can promote, develop fintech products, and the how the business model work that you develop a fintech product, you sell them, and you earn a commission on it, and it commission goes from more than thousands of dollars usually. So this is the last part of it that we will request you to make the best out of this opportunity. As you might have understood, this fintech sector is growing. There is enormous potential. There is a lot of wealth creation happening. There is a lot of employment keeping generated in this sector, and this sector is impacting all of our lives in a very subtle way, but very important way. That's why we would urge you to be a part of this growth story, build a career in fintech, and we hope to have you in our campus for this academic year. So I will open the floor for any questions, any suggestions that you guys have, or feel free to contact on these coordinates so that we can help you with any other queries that you have. Ishan, over to you if you receive any queries or any uh, questions that I may need to answer.
Thank you, Avinash, for a very informative webinar on fintech. Guys, please post queries in the chat box or raise your hands.
There is one question in the chat box. Is
Yeah.
it necessary to have MBA to start working in fintech?
Not necessary as such. That's my very prompt response on that. But see, then if I generalize this question, it is not even necessary to start to launch a startup, as we say, right? So MBA is not the necessary criteria for working in any of the segment, any of the technologies. But what MBA provides you, that the initial level, initial skill set that is required to have a growing career path. So as I draw upon my example, so I am an engineer by qualification, but I did my MBA from one of the IIMs. So that if you would have asked me 5 years back if MBA was required, I would have said no. Engineering degree was sufficient to work in any of these startups and have a good career. But MBA helped me to have broad view. I could select my career paths basis the specialization that was offered, basis the resources that I had. So that way MBA helped me to even now I can build a career in another domain, because MBA gave me that perspective that enhanced my skill set. And to have a career in fintech, obviously some of the coding skills are required, but you will have to understand the nuances of financial systems that I think only MBA can provide you. So that's why I think it is good to have an MBA to work in fintech sector. I hope I answered your query. If not, then please feel to raise your hand and I will take up the question.
Okay, there is one more question.
Yeah.
Miss Preeti, she has asked, how can we merge fintech with biochemistry field? Any suggestion?
Biochemistry field.
Yeah.
Uh, See, I'm not a professor as such. See, any domain that you are working in, that domain, that skill set has to be monetized. So let's say if I relate that biochemistry field to one of the major organization in our country, Biocon. So Dr. Majumdar Shaw, she used to be on the board of governors of IIM Bangalore, and I used to interact with her. And she's one of the prominent personalities of our country. And she was a very much enthusiast. She was very much enthusiastic about these upcoming and new technologies. And if I talk about how fintech can help any company who is operating in biochemistry, then obviously, uh, there used to be a supply chain where the payment used to be done. There a regulatory risk that needs to be managed. So the fintech is not just only about making one transaction, but it is also in the field of, let's say, compliance tech. It is also in the field of regulatory tech, because in B2B there are lots of risks associated with different clients. So that way fintech helps to manage those risks by use of the technology, so that there is a less effort required on individual side to do the manual work again and again. That's why there is a if you see these startups, so the revenue generated or the valuation is very high in proportion to the number of people who are working there, because of the high productivity of these technologies that enable them to have this kind of advantages. So that way, I think biochemistry, any field, any unrelated field can be related with financial technology, because financial technology has been, has getting involved in all part of the working of any organization.
Okay. Another question is,
Mhm.
has any batch graduated in fintech from Ajeenkya DY Patil University?
So we have BBA in fintech, which I think 2-3 batches have graduated. But for MBA fintech, last year was our first batch, so they are yet to graduate. We launched it last year. Any other questions, guys, you have?
How many batches graduated from BBA?
BBA, what I understand, two batches have graduated so far. Because see, we are a young university. We set up in 2015. So, and this is our seventh year of operations.
Okay. What were their placements like? BBA in fintech.
Uh, See, when I talk about replacements, so placements were good. I think we had an average salary of 6 lakhs per annum for our BBA graduates. Okay,
Okay.
and see, these are new technologies and new programs as such. Okay, so I should not be commenting on how the placement will be after 2 or 3 years, not because of it going to be downward, but because of the enormous growth potential these programs have. Because we don't have enough professionals in our country who can work on these technologies. And you can see these startups who have become humongous in size, their requirement will always be there. And not the existing startups, but the new startups, new technological companies who are coming. So there is going to be huge demand. And that's why we there is a gap between the companies hiring and the university providing the graduates. And that's where we are trying to mitigate that gap by providing the skill set that are required for the graduate to have a career in these technologies. And
Okay.
this is not yeah.
Okay. There is one more question
Yeah.
from the student name is Kalyani.
Mhm.
What is the future of neo banks regarding the fintech field?
Okay, so I gave the example about these Open, the startup Open, which became unicorn last year. And this is one of the companies which is related to neo banking. So neo banking is nothing but, as the name suggests, the banks which are new, new in the terms of the technology that they are using, not just the basic initial model of the brick and mortar model, that there is to be a branch, there is to be a customer set, people working there. But neo banking is all, I should not say the cloud, but it is all in the uh, backbone of technology. So this company Open, which I gave example for, this is one of the neobank companies. So what they did, they connected the bank account of the retailer who is having their small shops or selling some products in their physical stores. So they connected their existing bank accounts with their front end operations, and that's way they not just smoothen the digital payment process, but they help them assess their inventory basis their cash flows. So let's say if one retailer is listed on Amazon, right, and Amazon has their right now public day sale is going on, their Black Friday sale is there. So that retailer does not have much idea how the demand is going to be in those season. So they are unable to procure the inventory that they require to sell. But what they did, they assessed the demand, how their demand rose up during these sales period. And they suggested by using analytics that, boss, this is your cash flow, this is your inventory that you will require because this season is coming, so that you will be able to sell more than what you could sell and you can expand further. So that's why all the retailers who are using new, I think more than 1 million retailers are using that platform, and they are able to manage their cash flow very smoothly and as well as their demands of the inventory. So neo banking is nothing but the traditional bank who are trying to venture into the new technological areas.
Um, there's one another question.
Yeah.
Uh, has summer placements for MBA fintech of your first year begun?
No, it will start this year. The last year we started. So at the end of first year, they will get to intern at their choice of companies.
Okay, and if yes, if the
Hmm.
placements has already started, so what
Mhm.
kind of roles are they getting?
So the if it is no, then I cannot comment on the kind of role that they are getting. But I will give you an example. our program leader, Dr. Piotr, he was in discussion with one of our MBA FinTech students, and they had the similar type of queries. They wanted to work in investment bank. They wanted to work at front end roles, and Dr. Piotr suggested that you know you should apply to these companies. And what I will do, I will basis my previous contacts, I will forward your letter of recommendation that will be required there to work in those companies. So I hope you understood my point that the program leaders that we have who are London Business School MBAs, they have done PhD from one of the a major university in UK, and they have worked with investment banks. So they have the kind of connections that I don't know if you are aware about how universities in other countries, developed countries work. So their professor play a major role in their internship and their career placement, not just because of the modules they teach, but also because of the connection, the recommendation that they provide, so that that will help the student grab the opportunity that they are looking for. So that's the kind of exposure that we are trying to build in our MBA FinTech.
Okay, one more question.
Yeah.
What types of skills or competencies one need to have in order to be fit for the fintech field?
Okay. See, I will talk about mostly MBA FinTech. So, as required by any of the MBAs, the program requires the basic understanding of finance and accounting, not at a higher level, but all these plus minuses should be comfortable with the student. As our MBA entrance tests in our ADYPU also, and the CAT exam also, they test the quantitative ability and reasoning, as well as the English language skills. So these are the basic necessity that will be required for in order to be fit for the fintech field. And when you join the program, then you will be given exposure. What are the programming languages that are required? What are the financial theories, the theorems, the formulas that will be required, so that you can get a good understanding of how the fintech world works. So I hope I answered Kalyani's query. Great. Any other
Okay,
questions?
friends,
Yeah.
if you have any more queries, please mention your queries in the chat box, right?
Please, and if any query comes, feel free to write us. Sunita has provided the coordinates here as well, so that we will try to answer over email or call.